This is the 8-9 combo. I'm Brett McKay. This is Harry Jones, and this is Games of the Week. Hello, mate. We're back. It's test week.
How's it, man? So your team is involved in the game of the week.
Yes,
it's the first.
Yes. It's going to be a ripping first weekend of the Rugby Championship, and it is great to be back at the end of another week. We feel like we're out of practice for this, but do go back and find episode 26 of the 8-9 Combo Rugby podcast with Paul Cully, a forensic preview of the 4 squads in the Rugby Championship and all the narratives coming into this year's tournament. It was a great chat that we loved, and it's going gangbusters already, which is great to see. And it is the international edition of our end of week show. Once again, it's still short and sharp, and it's still about the games that stand out to us around the rugby world this weekend, which fortunately is 2 in total, which is easy. It makes this week's Games of the Week very easy because it is all about round 1 of the Rugby Championship, and it starts, mate, with Australia v South Africa at Suncorp Stadium in Brisbane on Saturday afternoon, 2:30 kickoff in Brisbane. Game is sold out. School rugby's earlier in the day, club rugby's Friday night, Saturday morning, Sunday afternoon. Brisbane is just clearing the calendar, and they are going to the rugby in big numbers. It's going to be fantastic.
Yo, why do you think the sellout happens so quickly and easily? It's not like been that easy to sell out rugby in Australia recently.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think part of it is it's Brisbane's first test of the year, and the Reds obviously had a decent season as well. So they're obviously riding high. The Wallabies also have a good record in Brisbane against everyone, despite their own record. They still have a good record in Brisbane. So, I think the planets have just aligned for Brisbane rugby folk, and they've gone. And like to be declared, it was declared a sellout on Wednesday or maybe even Tuesday. So it's fantastic.
And might it have anything to do with the wee Bocklings, the Underbucks, the Underdogs? The
undisputed underdogs,
the unofficial world champion. Of course, no one wants to say it, but like, would that be possibly a draw to see Ibn Etzebeth and Peter Steph Toy generational players?
Could be.
I love it on Twitter because all the Australians going, it's sold out because we're winning again. Like, I don't know. There's also this situation of number 1 coming in town.
Yeah,
kind of
I'm sure.
Knock them off.
I'm sure that has something to do with it. I'm sure there's more than a few South African expats on the Queensland coastline.
No, just Australian rugby fans. I mean, so any rugby fan would really like to go see the current world champions. I think the matchups, and it's so easy to think about this in different terms of like boxing fights. The draw and what draws. You go, you say 2 names, you go, oh, that'll be a sellout, and you just go, that's it. And I think that's what Super Rugby always tried to do, was build this sort of idea that you're probably watching the best players in the world. And then with the player flight away from South Africa, where most of the best players were actually playing outside, and then this weird chop and changey conference-y thing, it just makes it a bit sad because there were moments in that competition when you had the Brummies at their peak against the Bulls at their peak, and you go, we're just watching test rugby here.
Yeah. Like when an Australia or New Zealand team could go to Cape Town or could go to Pretoria and win knockout games, that wasn't a mug's game. So it's
office, man.
It's going to be a fantastic contest. I'm not going to lie, I had accreditation on this. I actually had accreditation for this game, but lo and behold, there was no travel budget left, so I didn't go.
But we are, so just for the audience though, we are revenue positive now, and so
we are revenue positive.
We are both. Yep. I'm itching on the book flights, book everything. Brett's having to hold me back, but no, we're very excited. We have great new things coming our way, and I just think we're just in a really good mode right now. One year ago it was doom and gloom, and will there ever be rugby in Australia again? And now it's like sold out, Suncorp. And the Wallabies favored by a few points.
Yeah. No.
I mean, in the Harry Index.
Literally no one believes that. You don't even believe that.
Game winning streak.
So given that the Box are clearly the underdogs, as you say, where is Australians' dominance coming in this contest? Talk me through that.
I ran the ruler and I saw that there was a problem for you guys in the tight five.
Yep.
I didn't see anyone there that I could really, good boy prefect Nick Frost up against Archis Neyman, the Mad Viking. Didn't like that matchup for you guys. I mean, Kylie is good, but look, he's up against some real buffaloes and oxen. You wonder about that. Bongi is a bong. You just straight go to the bong. And then, there's this guy called Ian Etzebeth. So I didn't like that matchup. However, I think Rob Valentini and Harry Wilson have something to say in their matchup with their fellow guy, Tizano, against the trio of Peter Steph, Sia, and El Rachlo, just because Lowe's, he's called the sheriff in Loftus, but he's still untested.
How many tests has he played? Only a handful?
Four tests, right, okay. And it's against, it's like 2024 tests. They don't really count that much. He wasn't up against Ireland, so he's played the likes of, Portugal. I think C has been off the pace a little bit, so there's an opportunity. And then Jake Gordon against Corbus, Noah against Sasha. You wouldn't say that we know how that's going to go because it hasn't happened.
Lolosio against Feinberg in Gomazulu is going to be a fantastic
super
contest.
Interesting.
Head. Yeah, it's going to be really, really interesting. Two young tens with their careers ahead of them. Probably. And you'd probably have to say that the road ahead looks probably brighter for young Sasha than it does for young Noah at the moment. But if he has one and then two really good games against the number one team in the world, then, it's his jumper to lose after that.
Yeah, no, I think the Noah backers will say after the game that it was good. They'll point to the things he did well. The Noah bashers will pick at him if he has an off day at all. Yep. The truth is that people don't know about Sasha in Australia probably, and so they don't know.
We've not seen him. We've not seen him at all.
First time at fly-off. He never plays fly-off for the Stormers. He's not even the first choice at his club. So there's all this kind of deniability, alibi, Rossi doing some mad scientist work in the lab. But I'm just going to say he's a good player. He's a proper test player. So there's that. No, across the board, you would say the Box have the better players, better tested, more experienced, more wins. But it's at some point.
Yet somehow are still underdogs.
And the Box have two new coaches, whereas I think Joe.
Two new coaches.
Joe is not really a new coach. Who
are the new coaches for the Box?
He knows Rossi really well. He was Rossi's boss. And every time you have a boss in the world and you come against your boss again, it's always that kind of Joe wants to show Rossi that he's still the maestro. He was the coach of Ireland, looking down at Munster and saying, Rossi, do this, Rossi, do that. So I think there's a bit of a spice there in the coaching box. Mike Cron, the scrum coach, up against Don Human. That's a cool matchup. I don't know. You'd look at this and say the Wallabies traditionally do better than they really are when they play in Brisbane against the Box. So that's all it is. Yeah.
And so on that is the
history.
That is the straw that you are clutching to this week to maintain this charade that the Box are undisputed underdogs.
Well, tippers do that.
That's where we're arriving.
Look at horses for courses. They look at French Open clay versus Wimbledon grass. Something about Brisbane. I've always thought that it's just our boys go to Australia have too much fun. I actually think that the Bok boys are just running around Bondi Beach and having fun. They go, oh wait, there's a game.
There is much enjoyment to be had on Gold Coast beaches, no doubt. But I'm telling you, mate, if you're going to maintain this charade, you have spent too much time in Mexican pastures.
No, it's going to be a proper match though, and I would think so for Wallaby fans that had this sort of joy of not opening their phone and looking at the result for the night before going, oh no, what happened to us. It's been kind of fun, but this is where it really gets real.
This feels like rubber on the road now, doesn't it?
Guys like Jake Gordon, guys like Tom Wright, the midfielders, Hunter Paisami. I mean, it's a real proper test.
All of them. For so many of them, it will be, the biggest test of the last year or two for them. No doubt at all.
Yeah, you don't worry about Ala Atoa. You know what he's going to bring. You've seen it before. James Slipper.
You even know what Slipper's going to bring off the bench too.
But there's some of these guys that have been looking good against opposition that, let's say, was less than formidable.
Yeah. Where Genuinely, where are your concerns about the box, or do you not have any?
Well, we'll say this: if the Bucks play the way they're supposed to play, they should win, as you would think a number 1 should do against number 9.
Yes.
Where there would be opportunities
it's the first sensible thing you've said about this game.
I think back 3, quick pitch, moments of madness, little bits of errors. Kellaway Wright,
Dagunu's been really good form this year.
Up against the Lekkerbecks and Willie, the maestro coordinator. So Willie is getting on in age. He's 34 years old. He has 95 tests. Until he dies, he's going to be a guy that sometimes does something very, very strange in a match. So you've got like Tom Wright, the young
and wins it. Yeah.
Kind of like the kind of Willie wannabe against the Willie who used to be. And so there's a possibility of some weird stuff happening between Tom Wright and Willie LaRue. I would just say that. So they might do ill-advised, skip pass or something strange that gets turned around and Daguna runs in for interception. I would say I'm looking at the back 3. I kind of think I know how the midfield will go. There is no midfield in better form than Dialende and Creel. They just they are in red hot form.
Yeah, I'm keen to see what sort of connection Gordon and Lolosio have with Paisami and Ikitau, and then what flows further out wide. And I'm also keen and, in fact, requiring to see a really good kick chase across the board, whether that's kicking from front line with Gordon and Lolosio at 10, whether it's clearing kicks from Kellaway and Wright at the back. Dangunu's not going to kick too much, but those kicks from the back are going to have to be chased well, because you cannot afford to give your Lekkerbacks any room out the back. You're going to have to be in their face, making all those balls contestable. And so it's going to take discipline from the Wallabies across the board from one sideline to the other for 80 minutes, which has been a bit of a problem. And so if they can navigate all that, then they'll give themselves a shot.
Yeah, this was brewing, the organized counter. It was before Tony Brown, but Tony Brown's put another wrinkle on it, which is on the kick that goes too long. What they're doing in the box is setting up a quick ruck. So it looks like they're not going to counter, but they in fact are, because they do such a quick ruck on that first reload.
They're countering on the first phase,
Don Ferguson on the Roar was putting this out. He had a few clips and showed how that looks like, we're just going to go through maybe a box kick, or maybe we're going to clear. But no, it's on. All they were doing was spending 3 seconds loading, and then they do 1-2 quick longs, and then it's into Villy's hands in the channel. And then he's just looking for his, Villy stuff. Like,
and he's just looking for his broken field. Yeah.
So that's I think that's right. I think the scrum also is going to be not an opportunity. I think it's going to be a survival mode. I think Kailea is that shy warrior. He's been very humble student guy, but Fessler and Kailea, they're going to try and split them in the scrum. They're just
no question.
Boring right in there, and it's going to be difficult on scrum 1, 2, and 3. Yeah, whatever the ref gets from that is going to be interesting.
Yeah, it is, and with these new law variations as well, which I'm not buying into the theory that they've been brought in to depower South African scrums. I think it's actually completely misrepresenting the point of what they're trying to do is move the game on, and all it means is if they're having to give short arms, they're going to give penalties. So, it's not about depowering scrums; it's about moving games on. But anyway, I don't think it's going to have too much of it.
Well, it adds one thing to a ref's life, which is not only on that, but also the different gradations of cards. The referee's life, which we've been told is too complicated, and therefore brings them great grief.
Is about to get more complicated. Yeah, exactly. Second game of the weekend, of course, of Saturday, New Zealand, Argentina at the Sky Stadium in Wellington, 7:05 kickoff local time. That is going to be an interesting contest, because as we discussed with Paul Cully on earlier in the week, episode 26, there is a bit of pressure on the All Blacks at the moment, and I like this team that they've picked. I like that they've gone with Geordie Barrett and Anton Linnett-Brown as 12-13. I like that they've gone, you know what, Rico, we think that maybe coming off the bench might be where you fit this game, and they're easing Will Jordan in, but they look a bit light on across the second row, I've got to say.
Yeah, but so does Argentina. Argentina named the team, and I don't even know the locks.
No, I can't help you either.
Lavanini's on the bench. So I want, my big question to you is on both games: does the game get decided before the benches come on, or is it the benches that end up deciding the game?
No, I think there's a risk that both get decided before the benches come on. Yeah, definitely.
Because if it is the benches, then you look at the bench and on the box, they just definitely have a better bench than the Wallabies can muster at this point. Just at this point, in the All Blacks Argentina, it's kind of weird.
There's a couple of hundred caps on the box bench for one thing.
But like on the All Blacks bench, you have Josh Lord, Wallace Satiti, Cortez Ratima. So you have some real experiments going on the bench, whereas Argentina's loaded up their bench with some big boys. So it's kind of a chess game there. I do think for me, the All Blacks Pumas match will revolve around
bomb squad,
the starting loose trios. I think Arden,
no doubt,
Dalton, and Ethan have a real job to do, because we haven't seen that particular Ethan, Dalton, Artie. I have to go to the stats man and see if that combination's been on the field very many times.
No, we know maybe that loose trios I reckon only maybe once last year.
Yeah, we know that loose trios are all about combination ability. So what has Ethan, Dalton, and Artie got to offer against Marcos, Pablo, and Juan Martin? That's box office. I want to watch that. I'm going to try to key in on that.
That's a hell of a back row battle, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, again, we've discussed this. The Matera and Kremer in that second test against France were just unbelievable.
When they are on, they are just unbelievable. Pablo was one of the best forwards in New Zealand when he played there for the Crusade. I mean, he was a proper, like, he's a star.
He was. Yeah. And they've won in New Zealand now. They will not fear going to New Zealand to play the All Blacks anymore. So
I like Juan Martin Gonzalez's pace at 8, so he's a bit like what Charlie Cale's being groomed to be. But he's the finished product. I mean, he can score, monster you, but he can also run around you. So I do like that matchup for the Pumas. I don't like their matchup at scrum. Ethan De Groot, Cody Taylor, and Terrell Lomax should have a field day against Gaijo and Bejo. Poor hookers for the Pumas. They're great, but their props are just weak.
Yeah, no, it looks strong. If we take the moment that Damien McKenzie is either replaced at 10 or shuffles away from 10, how early or late in the game does that become a headline? His performance.
It all depends on what Will Jordan, the wonder boy of New Zealand, does next. So Damien's doing something. The score is the score, which is sometimes unfair to the starting guy, because sometimes it just takes a while.
They may not be on the field together though.
Well, but
if Jordan doesn't come on to the last 20, does Bowden go
Bowden
up?
Switches to 10.
Does McKenzie go off?
Bowden switches to 10 unless there's some injury, and Jordan is at the back, and Rico comes in as cover for wing, whatever. But what I'm saying is, what if the next 6 or 7 things that happen have Will Jordan and Bowden Barrett's name on it, and that becomes the headline of, they're pulled away at the end. Yeah, it's always unfair to the starting fly-off, because sometimes you just got to build an innings. You just like the opening batsman. You don't get to swing.
Exactly. And that's a roundabout way of saying Damien McKenzie is probably playing for his All Blacks future.
I think there's a lot of pressure on him to not just show, but to stamp authority on the game and remind people of that sort of tradition of Dan Carter, of Richie Mo'unga, Bowden Barrett at his prime.
Because they know they're not going to get Mo'unga back this year. But suddenly they've gone
taking it. Yeah.
Suddenly they've gone, you know what? Harry Plummer could be an option here yet.
I'm so there for that. I want Harry Plummer and Tane Edmed on the field for the Wallabies and the All Blacks in the Bledisloe. That's my fondest wish.
I reckon there's more chance of one than the other. I must say.
Harry Plummer's a decent player, man.
He is, and I don't say that to downplay his game at all.
No,
I don't.
He's a big boy. I do wonder sometimes about Damien McKenzie's. Like his whole career was spent in finding gaps and seams, and now against a Rushdie that is ubiquitous, he's having to play a very different way. I feel for the guy. I think he's having to switch in his mind away from instinct and more to plan.
I keep thinking that the longer he wants to play at 10, the longer he's effectively weakening his strengths. He's weak. He's becoming his own kryptonite. Yeah, I think he's more dangerous at fullback. So
it's like everyone in the All Blacks is really a fullback.
What do we know? Yeah, that's it. That's
Geordie.
That's the truth. That's the truth. And that's the truth of full time as well for the first Rugby Championship edition of Games of the Week. Our service to Test match rugby complete for another week. Now we just have to sit back and wait, mate.
It's the weirdest rivalry. I don't understand the Wallabies Springboks rivalry. We cannot get it to. It doesn't seem to cook. It's we either like each other too much, or we don't know about each other too much. I don't know. Something is weird.
Can we drain the Indian Ocean? Can we somehow get the continents closer?
Man.
I think that's the problem. If it was 2 hours flight, you could do more with it.
The problem in the rivalry, as I see it, is from the South African side, we're always too arrogant and blowhard, and I think it just comes off strange in the Australian, ironic, cheeky culture.
It comes off with this weird vibe, like you're trying to claim underdog status.
And then from the Australian side, I just got to say this: most of them don't know what they're talking about when they're describing the box. So we're like, wait, was that banter? Because you're talking about 1988. The idea of they're very slow. This might be the quickest box team you're gonna see. I don't know. The speed on the field is gonna be ridiculous.
No. Black and white leather ball stereotypes do not fit anymore. But tell us what you think at the 8-9 combo on all the socials. Leave your thoughts in the comment section right here on the YouTube channel below as well, or tell Harry and I, of course, on the socials in our usual places at Harry Baldy Jones and at BMC Sport. And please do like and follow and subscribe on your pod platform of choice and YouTube, and get everything as soon as it drops. And if you are on Spotify, make sure you've got the auto downloaded button switched on and get that in as soon as it drops. As we mentioned at the top, go back and find episode 26 with Paul Cully. Wherever you pod, it was a fantastic chat. It really was. So looking forward to that. And we've been taking over the rugby podcast world of this last week. Harry and I have popped up on both the Green and Gold Rugby podcast in Australia, the Rugby Bits podcast in South Africa this week. So find them wherever you pod as well, and report back how many times we repeated ourselves, because it was almost inevitable. This is Games of the Week from the 8-9 combo, the short side set piece combination you didn't realize you needed, coming from the podcast double act you already had. I'm Brett McKay. He's Harry Jones, and we'll be back in your ears on Saturday night with the first Rugby Championship edition of the Test match post-mortem.
I'm always funny, but I'm going to be serious for 1 second, Brett. You and I have a very dear friend who is probably one of the bravest, strongest men we both know. Love the guy to death. He is really alien right now. He watches this. That's why I'm saying this, because I think he'll get a kick of it from the bed he's in. We love you, brother. You are rugby personified, and then I just cannot even express how much we have loved being around you and with you. One of the strongest supporters of this idea of doing this thing we're doing right now.
One of
this guy.
Very earliest.
I'm not going to say his name. You know you are, but he is the rugby tragic in the world, and we love you, brother.
Yeah, stay strong, mate. Nice.